Hello to all. I, Dr. Ramandeep Kaur, welcome you all on BHS e-learning classes. Our today's topic is regarding physiological changes in pregnancy. So under the physiological changes in pregnancy, first we are going to discuss about the changes which happened in the reproductive organs. We all know that the reproductive organ is the first organ of the body. When the conception happens, it got affected. So under the reproductive organ, first we are going to discuss about the changes in the vagina. We all know that vagina, it is a vagina which forms a birth canal through which the baby delivers. So first is a changes then the vagina. Vagina act as a birth canal for the delivery of the child, and also under the vagina there is a hypertrophy of vagina, and connective tissues of vagina also undergo changes. So connective tissues of vagina undergo some changes. And apart from hypertrophy, there is an increase in vascularity. So increased vascularity means, my friends, it means it is increase in the blood supply. So there is a hypertrophy, there is increase in the blood supply to the vagina. So with the increase in the blood supply, what happens? So it leads to two kinds of sign. If you remember the first lecture which we have discussed two sign. First was Chadwick sign and second was the Jacquemer sign. Chadwick sign is also called as a Jacquemer sign, and another is a Osiander sign. So what is a Chadwick sign? It is a bluish discoloration of vagina. Purple or bluish discoloration of the vagina is called as the Chadwick or Jacquemer sign, and it happens around 4 to 8 weeks of pregnancy, and remember its peak level is at 16th weeks of gestation. So due to the increase in the blood supply, the increase of vascularity, there is a Chadwick sign, and another one is a Osiander sign. Osiander sign is the increased pulsation in lateral fornix. Increased pulsation means due to the increase in the blood supply in the lateral fornix of the vagina, there is a feeling of increased pulsation, and this signs happened around 6 to 8 weeks of pregnancy. Then apart from this hyperplasia or increase of vascularity, another change which happens in the vagina is that the vaginal pH is more acidic in pregnancy as comparison to non-pregnant state. So now let's discuss what's the reason for this more acidic pH of vagina. So actually it happens due to the pregnancy hormone estrogen. This estrogen leads to the increased deposition of glycogen in squamous cells of vagina. Squamous cell of vagina, and which lead to the, as there is an increased deposition of glycogen in the squamous cell of vagina, which will further lead to the changes in the vagina. That is, this glycogen, this excessive glycogen which is get deposited in the vagina is being utilized by the lactobacillus. So lactobacillus is actually, it is a healthy bacteria, it is a healthy bacteria of our vagina. So this glycogen is being used by the lactobacillus, so which will lead to the more production of lactic acid. And we all know that if there is a more production of lactic acids, it will lead to the increase in the pH. So with this, there is an increase in the there is a more acidic pH of the vagina, which will lead to the increase acidic pH of vagina. And another very important question related to it, this is, what is the most common cause for the vaginitis in pregnancy? So the most common vaginitis in pregnancy is vulvovaginal candidiasis, which is caused by the Candida albicans, and it occurs due to the more acidic pH of the vagina. Now moving ahead, further is about the growth of the uterus. So first change which is in the vagina we had discussed. Now second is the changes which occur in the uterus. So under the uterus we all know that the pregnancy affects the uterus very much. It is a uterus which is growing bigger in the size, and all the changes of the pregnancy is getting evident from this changes which happened in the uterus. So under the uterus, the pregnant uterus at term weight around 1000 to 1100 gram. And we all know that the weight of the non-pregnant uterus is 50 to 70 gram, and whereas the weight of the pregnant uterus is 1200 gram. And apart from this increase in the weight, there is some another important change which occurred in it is the myometrial hypertrophy and hyperplasia. So there is a hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the myometrial muscles. Now the question arises is why it is happening. So it occurs due to pregnancy hormone estrogen plus progesterone. So this estrogen and progesterone is responsible for this hypertrophy and hyperplasia. Now the another question arises here is what is more predominant, like whether it is hypertrophy or hyperplasia. It is always, remember my friend, that hypertrophy is more predominant than hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is just limited to the first trimester, and after the 12 weeks of pregnancy, the increase in the height of the uterus happened due to the stretching of the uterine muscles. So now further moving ahead is as we had discussed that there is increase in the weight of the uterus from 70 grams to 1100 grams. So when there is a delivery of the child, when the placenta is out from the maternal womb, then there is a decrease in the weight of the uterus. But always remember, uterus will never come exactly to that pre-pregnant state. Like if in the pre-pregnant state the weight of uterus is 50 grams, so definitely after the one delivery the weight will be around 60 or 70 grams. So it is so this is a reason that the women who has delivered a child, like a Paris women, has a bulky uterus as comparison to the nullipara. So this is a reason that as there is an increase in the delivery, so it will lead to the bulkness in the uterus. Another change in the uterus is arrangement of the muscles fibers. So the muscles fibers, we all know that there are the three layers of the uterus, that is the endometrium, myometrium and perimetrium. And the layers and the inner layer, so layer of this endometrium is arranged in the circular manner. So see here, so this uterine muscles fibers of the endometrium are arranged in a circular manner, and whereas of the outer layer it is arranged in a longitudinal manner. So outer longitudinal, in the inner it is a circular manner, and whereas in the middle layer it is arranged in a crisscross manner. You can see here it is arranged in a crisscross manner. So this crisscross manner arrangement of the uterine muscle fiber is very important in the postpartum period. So this middle layer is a very important, as well as the thickest layer of the uterine muscle fiber. So why it is the thickest layer of the uterine muscle fiber? See Rajiv, we all know that the question here is what is the reason for blood clotting after delivery, like the stoppage of blood after delivery. We already had discussed in the third stage that it is our contractions which leads to the stoppage of the bleeding. So as a contraction is happening, and this middle layer, see here in the diagram, this middle layer is arranged in a crisscross manner, and the blood vessels are present inside this this muscle fibers. So as the uterus will contract, so the muscles along with that blood vessels will contract, and it will lead to the stoppage of the bleeding. So this is the reason that this middle muscle fiber is very important, and this middle layer of myometrium is a very important living ligature. And now the another question here is what is the main cause of the postpartum hemorrhage? So the main cause of the postpartum hemorrhage is the atonicity. So atonicity कैसे इफेक्ट होगी, जैसे आप लोगों को बता दें कि कॉन्ट्रैक्शंस होगी, कॉन्ट्रैक्शंस के कारण क्या हुआ, जो मिडल लेयर की मसल जो क्रिस क्रॉस मैनर में ऐसे अटैच थी, so it will get contracted and the blood vessels which are present inside will get contracted. Ultimately it will lead to the stoppage of the bleeding. So this atonicity is an important reason for the stoppage of the bleeding. Now moving ahead about the fundus of the uterus. This is our umbilicus and this is a symphysis pubis. So at 12 weeks of gestation, the fundus of the height reaches this symphysis pubis. Then slowly it will get upper side. So this is the fundus of the uterus. So always remember at 12 weeks of gestation, the fundus of uterus become a abdominal organ. So the question comes here like when the this uterus become an abdominal organ. So it is at 12 weeks of gestation when the this fundus of uterus is going to enter into the abdomen. And another clinical implication related to this is round ligament pain. Like as I have told you that at 12 weeks, the fundus of uterus has entered a symphysis pubis and eventually slowly it will get increased in the size. So this will lead to the stretching of a round ligament. So a stretching of round ligament happens and this stretching leads to the pain in the leads to the unilateral pain which radiates towards the groin area. Mother will say that usually in the second trimester mother will complain that कि मेरे abdomen की इस side में pain हो रही है, it is radiating towards the thigh. So counsel her this is a normal pain which happens due to the stretching of the round ligament. As the fundus of the uterus is getting elongated, so it will lead to this pain. Another change which happened in the uterus, till now we are just talking about the uterus. Earlier we had discussed vagina and now we are discussing about the uterus. So there is a dextro rotation of the uterus. Dextro rotation means rotation of the uterus towards the right side. So why there is a dextro rotation of the uterus? Like after 12 weeks when the uterus is going to enter into the abdominal organ, so on the left side there is a presence of the left side, there is what is on the left side, there is rectosigmoid colon. Because of it the uterus will rotate it to the right side. So dextro rotation of the uterus happens. And another change which happens, like the fundus of uterus going up. So as a uterus is going upwards, so it will lead to the supine hypotension. Supine hypotension, that this gravid uterus is putting pressure on the inferior vena cava, and which will lead to the decreased venous compression, and there is a dizziness, there is a syncope, and there is a supine hypotension in the mother. And another reason, another discomfort mother will feel is a respiratory discomfort. This respiratory discomfort, like as the uterus is going up, it is going up, so it is putting pressure on the diaphragm, so which will lead to the respiratory discomfort, and it will relieved when the lightening happens. Lightening happens when the fetal head is going to enter into the pelvic cavity, so with it will relieved. And another about the uterine artery blood supply, there is increase in uterine artery blood supply by 17 times in pregnancy. So always remember there is increase in increase in uterine artery blood flow by the 17 times in the time in pregnancy. And why it is happening? It is happening due to the dilatation, due to the increase in the velocity, or due to increase in the blood flow. So as and now the clinical implication of this increased uterine artery blood flow, like I have told you that there is increase in the blood supply, so it will lead to two kind of sound in the mother. First is the uterine souffle and second the placental. So when you are examining any pregnant female, and when you will put the stethoscope on the near the pelvis, like on the lower part of the abdomen, near the pelvis, then you will hear a very whoosh kind of a very loud sound, which is called as a uterine souffle. Don't confuse it with the fetal heart sound. And this its measurement basically is equal to the maternal pulse. And another implication of this increase in uterine artery blood supply is the placental souffle. So what is placental souffle like? When we are putting stethoscope little upward, like not towards the pelvis, we are putting the stethoscope on the upper part of the abdomen, and we'll hear some loud sound. And we sometimes get confused with the fetal heart sound. But it is not fetal heart sound. This sound is called as the placental souffle. So this all happens due to the increase in the blood supply. So with this are changes in the uterus completed. And another third changes in the cervix. So in the cervix there is a hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the cervix. And another second changes happens in the cervix is, see that this is uterus and this is mucus plug. So there is a mucus plug which closes the mouth of the internal os, like I have drawn here in the diagram. So this mucus plug will close the mouth of the internal os. Actually, this mucus plug is a protective. How it is protective? It prevents the ascending infection. It prevents the ascending infection. So remember we had discussed in the first stage the term bloody show. So the bloody show was when the mucus plug mixed with blood is called as the bloody show. So when the labor started, this mucus plug will get expelled out along with some blood in it, which is called as the bloody show. And another is a Goodell's and the Haggard signs. So Goodell and the Haggard sign, it is the softening of the cervical isthmus. See, this is not isthmus. Isthmus is a part which is present between body of uterus and cervix. So इस पार्ट को कहते हैं हम isthmus. So Goodell sign is the softening of cervical isthmus. Remember, it is a very important sign. So we in the cervix we can see the Goodell size, and also there is a increase in the blood supply to the cervix. Connective tissue of the cervix undergoes changes. It will get more softened as cervix has more connective tissue, as comparison to other parts of uterus. So cervix में सबसे ज़्यादा connective tissue होते हैं. And another the thing which is related to is the feel of the cervix. Like there is a softening of the cervix due to the increase in blood supply, collagen breakdown, जिसके कारण cervix soft हो गया. And if you feel the cervix of a pregnant female, if you feel it with the finger, it will feel like a lips. And if you are feeling the cervix of the internal os of a non-pregnant mother, and it feels is like a tip of a nose. So from which we can say that the softening of the cervix happens in the pregnancy. And fourth changes is in the breast. So breast in the lactation, we had discussed that the preparation of the lactation starts from the pregnancy time period. So in the breast, there is a hypertrophy and the proliferation of the ducts and alveoli due to the estrogen and due to the estrogen plus progesterone. So this all will lead to the hypertrophy proliferation, and it will lead to the preparation of the milk secretion in pregnancy. And along with this, there is an increase in the blood supply to the breast. Increase in the blood supply to the breast. And we can also see that the Montgomery tubercles. Rajiv, what is this Montgomery tubercles? So this is sebaceous gland. So Montgomery tubercles is basically when there is a increase in the size of the sebaceous gland, it will lead to the formation of Montgomery tubercles. And along with this Montgomery tubercles, it keeps the breast healthy and moist. Along with this, there is a formation of this secondary areola in the pregnancy. And there is some secretion of the breast from the second trimester of pregnancy that is called as the colostrum. So this colostrum secretion starts from the second trimester of the pregnancy. Then another fifth is the changes which happened in the skin. So in the cutaneous system, we can see that first is this is stretch marks of pregnancy. Stretch marks of pregnancy, or we can say that the stria gravidarum. So always remember that in present pregnancy, it is pinkish in color. It is pinkish in color. Whereas in the past pregnancy, where the stretch marks of the past pregnancy are the silver grayish in color. Silver past pregnancy, it is past pregnancy, it is silver grayish in color. So okay, first this is stretch marks of pregnancy, and another one, this is called as, this line is called as linea nigra. Linea nigra, it is a line which extends from xiphisternum to symphysis pubis. So this line is called as the linea nigra. This is stretch marks or the stria gravidarum of the pregnancy, and this is linea nigra, and this is chloasma. Chloasma means hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation on cheeks, on the nose, on the forehead. That is called as a chloasma of the pregnancy or the mask of the pregnancy. So this all changes happen due to the hormone estrogen and progesterone. And Raja, remember, counsel the pregnant female that after the delivery, this stretch marks will fade away, but it will not 100% go away. Like in the market, there are, you can see that the some advertisement is also there related for this fading of stretch marks. So with time, it will fade away, but not it will 100% gone. Then another is the vascular spider. Like see, a pregnant female usually will complain that there is a red rashes happened on her chest, on her neck area. So basically when you will examine that area, so it is a kind of a red area through which arterioles are coming out. So it is a red area through which the arterioles are coming out, and it is called as the vascular spider of pregnancy. So it happens due to the increase in the vascularity and counsel a mother it is a normal physiological change of pregnancy. She should not be worried about it. Then another change is the palmar erythema. Palmar erythema is due to the pregnancy hormone estrogen. There is a redness on the palm of the mother. So sometimes female thinks that she's an any kind of allergy to any soap. Maybe she's going to change the soap, but counsel her that this is not due to any kind of soap or any medicine. It is a normal physiological change of the pregnancy, and calamine lotion may help in soothing this problem. And another thing, the pregnant female usually says that कि भाई there is so much heat radiating from her scalp, कि उसके scalp से मतलब heat निकली है हाथों में से पैरों में से. So it is all happening due to the increase in the cutaneous blood supply. As due to the increase in blood supply, she feels all such symptoms. And it happens due to pregnancy hormone. And always remember that progesterone is more responsible for it than estrogen. Then another is a weight gain in the pregnancy. Till now we had discussed the changes in the vagina, then we discussed in the uterus, then in the cervix. After the cervix we had discussed the changes which happened in the breast, and after the breast fifth was about the skin changes. Now sixth is weight gain in the pregnancy. So in the pregnancy there is a 11 kg of weight gain. So this 11 kg of weight gain is like in the first trimester there is 1 kg weight gain, and in the second trimester 5 kg, and in the third trimester 5 kg. So this much is the weight gains which happened in the pregnancy. Now moving ahead is after the weight gain, further is a body water metabolism. So in the pregnancy we all know that there is a retention of water. There is 6.5 liters of water retention happens in the pregnancy. So how does water retention happens? We all know that there is a increase in blood volume in the pregnancy. Increase in the blood volume in pregnancy. This increase in blood volume is increase in the plasma volume. We all know that the blood is composed of the basically 90% of the plasma. So this increase in blood volume will ultimately lead to the increase in the plasma volume. As there is increase in the plasma volume, so it will lead to the water retention. So around 6.5 liters water retention happen, and from which 3.5 liter is retained in the placenta, fetus, or the umbilical cord. And apart from this, another rest of the 3 liters is in the uterus, it is in the blood volume, in the breast, and also in the extracellular fluid. So this much of water retention which happens in the pregnancy. Now let's discuss what is the reason for this water retention. So there is due to the hormone estrogen, progesterone first, and second is the osmotic, the threshold for the water decreases in the pregnancy, along with the plasma osmolality decreases. So due to this decrease in the osmotic threshold for the water and the plasma osmolality, it will lead to the more retention of water. It will lead to the more intake of the water. Female will feel more thirst, and she will take more liquids, and when she will take more fluid, it will lead to the more retention of the water. So along with water, always remember there is a sodium as well as the potassium retention in the pregnancy. And this estrogen hormones also has a direct effects on the kidney. This estrogen also affect the kidney, and it will lead to the stimulation of renin aldosterone system. So it will stimulation of renin aldosterone system, and due to which there is some changes which occurred in the pregnancy. Like, now the question arises here is that I have told you there is a water retention, there is a sodium retention, and sodium, basically what is sodium is, it is salt. So whether, now the question here is whether it will lead to hypernatremia, like there is a sodium retention, whether it will lead to hypernatremia, no, because water retention is more as comparison to the sodium retention, so there is no hypernatremia. And one clinical implication related to is the, as there is a peripheral pooling of the blood, there is a more of the water retention, and also there is a hyperproteinemia. So all this factor will lead to the physiological edema of pregnancy. Physiological edema of pregnancy due to this peripheral pooling and water retention will lead to the physiological edema, and it will relieve by rest. So always remember, my friend, it will relieve by rest. So when the edema does not relieve with the rest, or maybe it is pathological, so which we'll discuss in our abnormality in the eclampsia, preeclampsia. So normal physiological edema happens in a pregnancy and it will sort out. Then another is the changes which occurred in the hematological system. So in the blood, there is increase in the blood volume, oxygen consumption increases, TLC level increases, all clotting factor increases except 11 and 13. This both will decrease, and plasma volume will increase by 40 to 50%, and WBC count usually increase around 25,000. And what decreases in the hematological system is the HB concentration, platelets count not like more than less than the 1.5 lakh, RBC lifespan decreases, and blood viscosity decreases. Why it decreases? It happens due to the hemodilution. And always remember that the clotting time and the bleeding time remains unaffected in the pregnancy, like it will remain the same. So another major and very important change which happened in the blood is a hemodilution. So hemodilution, like there is a increase in the plasma volume more than the RBCs. So there is a more plasma as comparison to the RBCs, which will lead to the hemodilution. And this hemodilution is a protective mechanism. Protective mechanism, how? It will help in the prevention of excessive blood loss, and also helps in increase in blood supply. So now discuss how this was helped in the as a protective mechanism. See, Rajay, suppose like this is a vessels, and say these are the RBCs. So in the first diagram, the blood is, it is hemodiluted blood, and in the second the blood is hemoconcentrated. So the hemodiluted blood means there is a less number of RBCs, whereas the hemoconcentrated is more number of the RBCs. Like if I am going to withdraw the 500 ml, 500 is too much. So if suppose if I am going to withdraw the 100 ml of blood. So if I am going to withdraw the 100 ml of blood, so according to you, from which from which diagram, from figure A or from diagram B, from which there is a more loss of the RBCs? It is from the figure B, because figure B has more number of RBCs, so it will lead to the more blood loss. So this is the reason that this hemodilution acts as a protective mechanism. It helps in the prevention of the excessive blood loss. And second, another use of this hemodilution is like since I have started this lecture, I have from very first slide I'm talking about that there is an increase in vascularity, increase in blood supply. So if I am saying there is increase in blood supply, agar if the blood is hemoconcentrated, agar blood zyada gada hoga, so there will be a decrease in the blood flow. So for the proper blood supply, for the good blood supply, we require the hemodiluted blood. So, if there is a hemoconcentrated blood, so it will lead to the sluggish flow. So remember that the second use of it is it helps in the proper supply of the blood. And clinical implication of this hemodilution is anemia. Due to hemodilution, there is a physiological anemia of pregnancy. And we know that if they're in pregnancy, if the HB level is less than 11 gram, we call it is as anemia. See, like Raji, suppose when the female has conceived, then her HB level is around, suppose example, 12 gram. And when she will reach the second trimester, definitely her HB level will fall. It will come around 11 or 10.5. So this is a physiological anemia of the pregnancy, like the HB level will fall down. It happens due to this hemodilution. Okay, clear? Now, another is in the hematological system is a clotting factor. So under a clotting factor, as we had already discussed, that all clotting factor increases except 11 and 13. And there is also an increase in the fibrinogen level in pregnancy. And this increase in the fibrinogen level leads to the increase in the ESR. So this is the reason and clinical implication of this, that this is the reason that the pre-eclamptic women tolerate blood loss poorly due to changes in this clotting factor. Okay. Now further is in the cardiovascular system. Like as the blood volume has increased, so definitely it will put stress on our cardiovascular system. हमारे कार्डियो को भी थोड़ा सा काम उसका बढ़ चुका है. So पहली चेंज जो हमारे cardiovascular system में आ गई, it is the fall in the diastolic blood pressure. So why there is fall in the diastolic blood pressure? As due to the decrease in the peripheral vascular resistance, it will lead to the decrease in the blood pressure, and usually there is a decrease in the diastolic blood pressure. And there is one clinical implication related to this fall in diastolic blood pressure is that in the second trimester, female will complain of dizziness and the syncope. Like she will say that it is not that supine hypertension I'm talking. Is simply maybe pregnant mother will say that I was doing nothing, like she was maybe sitting in front of the laptop, maybe she was just simply sitting on the bed and combing her hair, like so this so she will suddenly start feeling like dizziness and lightheadedness happens. So this all happens due to the decrease in the blood pressure, and it usually happens in the 24 to 26 weeks of pregnancy. So why it is happening in the 24 to 26 weeks of pregnancy? There is one reason behind it. That is, suppose, see, this is the pre-pregnancy, this is the pre-pregnancy blood pressure level. So pregnancy is पहले इतना था, अब conceive कर गया, and now there is little decrease, and nadir is a, you know what is nadir? It is a maximum point at which anything will happen. So nadir is at 24 to 26 weeks, like around this 24 to 26 weeks, she has a maximum fall in her blood pressure. Then her blood pressure is going to increase. Yes, it is increasing, but remember, it will not reach to the pre-pregnant level. ये pre-pregnant level पे नहीं आएगा. It will not reach to the pre-pregnant level. So this is a reason that around 24 to 26 weeks, female will complain of this dizziness and the syncope. And another clinical implication related to is the pregnancy-induced hypertension. very soon, very early, we are going to discuss about this abnormality of the pregnancy, that is a pregnancy induced hypertension. So Rajay, we say that pregnancy induced hypertension is hypertension which happens after 20 weeks of gestation. जो 20 weeks के बाद जो होगी उसको हम बोलते हैं pregnancy induced hypertension. Why we are saying it after 20 weeks? Because 20 इस टाइम पीरियड में सबसे ज़्यादा मैक्सिमम हमारा ब्लड फॉल हो रहा है अराउंड 24 to 26 वीक. अगर उस टाइम पे मदर का ब्लड प्रेशर डिक्रीज नहीं होने की बजाय इट इज़ गेटिंग इंक्रीज, सो डेफिनेटली इट इज़ जेस्टेशनल हाइपरटेंशन. Okay. And now further in the cardiovascular system, as the blood supply is increased, the blood volume is increased, so it will put pressure on the heart and the cardiac output is increases by the 40%. And as the cardiac output is increased, it will lead to increase in the heart rate. Heart rate is also going to increase in this time period due to the increase in the cardiac output. And also remember, my friends, that the cardiac output is maximum at 32 weeks of gestation in pregnancy. I'm talking about the pregnancy. Like if the question comes to me that in the pregnancy, at what weeks of gestation the cardiac output is maximum, so we'll say that at 32 weeks of gestation. And central venous pressure and ejection pressure remains same throughout the pregnancy. And we know that in the cardiovascular system there is a supine hypertension, and the management for this is the left side lying position. Like whenever mother is getting up from the bed, usko bolna ki dheere dheere wo uthe, and by if she is in the right side lying position, she has to take her position to the left and dheere dheere se wo uthegi. And another very important question, the maximum cardiac output is in the immediate postpartum period. So remember, in the immediate postpartum period, the cardiac output is maximum. And then intrapartum period, and at the last at the 32 weeks of gestation. So in the pregnancy it is at 32 weeks. Like if we have to compare from the postpartum, intrapartum and the pregnancy, so we can categorize it as that in the immediate postpartum period it is maximum, followed by the intrapartum period, and last is at the 32 weeks of gestation. And position of the heart, so as we know that the fundus of the uterus is going up, so it will displace the heart more towards the left due to growing uterus, due to the pressure on the diaphragm. And in the pregnancy, loud heart sound, we can auscultate the loud heart sound. So this is a changes which happens in the cardiovascular system. And another in the metabolic system, we all know that there is a weight gain in pregnancy, there is a deposition of fats, deposition of proteins. And in the first trimester, always remember that the fetus is completely dependent upon mother for her thyroid needs. Then iodine requirement, it increases. There is hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the thyroid gland, and thyroid hormone, that is the thyroid releasing hormone T3 and T4 can crosses the placenta, but not the thyroid stimulating hormone. And also the production of the thyroid hormone increases in pregnancy. So this is an important question. Remember that at term T3 and T4 increases, but free T4 level remains the same in the term of pregnancy. Then another in the respiratory system, we have never seen that कोई रेस्पिरेटरी मदर को लाइक शी इज टॉकिंग लाइक उसकी सांस फूल रही हो, लाइक हाइपर वेंटिलेशन, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. अगर मैंने बोला कि सारा कुछ चेंजेस हुए हैं, बट द रेस्पिरेटरी रेट remains the same. Respiratory rate, in fact, the inspiratory reserve volume and the vital capacity, remember, it remains same in pregnancy, whereas the tidal volume and the inspiratory capacity increases because of the stimulation of the respiratory center by the estrogen. So ये दो वैल्यू इंक्रीज होगी, वो सेम रहेगा. Residual volume and the expiratory reserve volume, it will decrease. And remember, in the pregnancy, the diaphragm is pushed upward by the 4 centimeter subcostal angle increases, which pushes the thoracic cage upward. So this is a changes in the respiratory system, and further the size of the kidney. So size of the kidney, it increases by the 1 centimeter. And remember, there is a hydroureter. Why it happens? The progesterone, it will lead to the relaxation of the smooth muscles of the ureter, and which will lead to the urinary stasis. And the question further arises here is, which is more common, right or left? So right hydroureter is more common than the left hydroureter. And complication of this is the increased risk of UTI. Pregnant female में UTI का बड़ा खतरा रहता है due to this urinary stasis. And renal blood flow, it increases in pregnancy by 50 to 75%. GFR is also increases as the filtration increases, so it will lead to the decreased serum urea, decreased serum uric acid, and decreased serum creatinine. So remember, in तीनों के value it will decrease. And urinary frequency in the first and the third trimester, there is increase because uterus is putting pressure on the bladder. And in the third trimester, what is happening? Fetal head is coming down, so which is putting pressure on bladder. Okay, and bladder pressure, it definitely increases in the pregnancy, जिसके कारण there is a stress related urinary incontinence in pregnancy. Okay, and in the always remember, this is very important question, that whenever any pregnant females come for the antenatal visit, we should routinely use our urine routine microscopy to diagnose the asymptomatic bacteriuria. Asymptomatic bacteriuria राजी कब diagnose होता है? When the bacteria level is 10⁵ bacteria in per ml of urine. When we are taking a midstream clean urine sample, अगर उसमें bacteria आ रहे, so that is called as the asymptomatic bacteriuria. And remember, E. coli is the reason. Remember, this is a very important question, that which organism is responsible for it? So it is the E. coli which is responsible for the asymptomatic bacteriuria. And we should treat the female accordingly, because this asymptomatic bacteriuria will lead to the preterm labor in the mother. And the last changes which happens in the GI system is the first is talism, like there is an increase in the secretion, and there is also a pica. We all know that the excessive craving for like chalk to eat the soil, so ऐसे non-nutritive things craving होना. Then there is abdominal distension in the pregnancy, gum bleeding due to the hormonal effect. The gum becomes softened and there is a bleeding in the gums, and there is a decrease in the gastric secretion, so due to which there is a decreased chances of the peptic ulcer, and gallbladder contractibility decreases, which will lead to the stone of gallbladder. So with this, our physiological changes of the pregnancy finished. Thank you so much.